Leather paints are products that provide for a layer of pigment to be applied to the surface of leather. Most often they are acrylic based, and they are generally flexible and water resistant once dry. There are several great options out there. Let's check out two of the best. As we get into the first, let's take a moment to understand how paints differ than dyes. Whereas dyes penetrate deep into the leather fibers, changing their color at the fiber level, paints instead form a layer on top of the fibers. Because of this, it's important that they dry flexible so that the surface layer can flex and move without cracking when the leather flexes and moves during day-to-day use. This is why most leather paints are acrylic based, to have that flexibility once they dry. First up, we have Angelus paints. They make some water-based, flexible acrylic options that are great. The colors are mixable and they can be sealed with surface protectants after drying. Application can be made by a few popular methods. These include cloth, brush, foam, airbrush. Pretty much any kind of applicator that works for paints will work for these. Many crafters find them especially useful on sneakers, shoes, personal accessories, purses, and clothing. Angelus also offers additional products that can be used collaboratively with the paints, including preparers and finishers, in a variety of options. Angelus paints are generally the most popular leather paint available. So that's a lot of talk. Let's see how it looks. So here we have a jar of Angelus paint in black. What we're going to do is we're going to slide some aluminum foil here to protect our surface. We're going to take a leather sample, drop that down, and we're going to give it a paint. So here we'll just open up the jar. You can kind of see it in there a little bit. And then what we'll do is we'll just take our paintbrush and we'll dip it in, and we'll get a little bit of paint on there. Then we'll just come down to our leather and we'll just apply it gently and evenly. So just like most paints, your applicator is going to be an important factor in how the finish comes out. Also is going to be important is the type of leather that you're painting. If it's smooth, then the end texture may be smooth. If it's textured, then after painting, you'll likely still see some of that texture underneath the paint, unless you put a lot of coats of paint on it. So just keep that in mind, that there are going to be a few factors and variables that go into how the finished painting looks. But here we're using a very basic brush. We're just going to apply smooth, even strokes, and that's it. Within seconds, we have the paint applied, and we can let it dry. So I'm going to cap the bottle again to help keep that paint in good shape. So once that dries, it's going to look just like this. So here's a dried sample of the Angelus paint, and looking up close, has a really nice, smooth, shiny look to it. And if we want to go even further, here's a little bit of water and an eyedropper. And when we look at untreated pieces of leather, when we put water on it, it absorbs very quickly. You can see the leather darkening already as it's absorbing it. Whereas if we take our dried Angelus paint piece, we could see it's going to react very differently. And essentially that water beads up and rolls right off. So that's pretty cool. So clearly the acrylic layer is adding, characteristics to this material. That's our Angelus. Next, we have our Jacquard textile paint. This is another really high quality, well-known paint. They make professional quality paints that generally don't chip, crack, or peel. They are acrylic, and water can be added to increase the transparency or kind of mix it with any other types of paint additives to adjust the characteristics as you need. They're available in a range of colors, and these are another really high quality option for leather paint. So let's check this one out and see how it looks. We'll bring back our painting area. We have our first one up there. So we'll take another leather sample, put that right over here. And then we'll open up our Jacquard paint. You can see right there. And then what we'll do is similarly, we'll just get a brush and we'll dip it into our paint here, getting some on the end of the brush. And then we'll just paint our sample. And similar to the first, there's going to be variations in how thick your bristles are, how much paint you're applying, and pretty much like most paints, factors that are going to influence the finished look and feel once that dries. But here, we're just going to do a quick application. And again, if you're doing something artistic, you could have parts masked off. You could be using, dabbers and sponges and pretty much any kind of creative approach that you may like. So here we're going to keep it very simple just to show you the difference between two of these top paints. And that's it. That is applied. So we'll come back here. We will cap up our bottle to keep that, or jar, to keep that paint in good shape. And we'll put that aside. And when that one dries, it will look just like this. So here is a sample of the Jacquard paint that's already dry. And you can see I put a very light coating on it. And that's the end result. So it also has a shiny surface to it. And let's test again the water resistance of it. I'll bring back our sample of our untreated leather, put some water on it, and see how it responds. And you can see it absorbs that really quickly. So now let's look at our dried sample of Jacquard and see what it does with the water. So that also beads up and drips right off. So you have some of the benefits of that acrylic surface working for you. And it's really interesting, on the Jacquard, you could still see some of those watermarks. So very different than the Angelus, there must be some permeability to that acrylic base. So you're getting some of that still remaining in there. So that's really interesting to see. I was not anticipating it to be that significant. So it's good to know because they're going to offer pros and cons. The Jacquard paint may give you more texture and more ability to kind of have a finer impact on that surface, whereas the Angelus is going to give you a very smooth, shiny surface. So you may lose a little bit of that fine texturization that the Jacquard may offer, where in Angelus, you're also getting much more of a water-resistant benefit. So let's compare the two closely and give them the head-to-head view. So here's our Angelus, here's our Jacquard, and that's how they're going to look dry. And these are two of the best, most popular leather paints on the market. So if you're looking to paint an item that will be used often and occasionally exposed to the elements and maybe some moisture, the Angelus can be great. And if you're looking for an option that can have some great textures as well as some deep, rich colors available in a variety of professional finishes, the Jacquard can be great. And these are excellent paint choices. If you have any questions, let us know. If you have experience with either or both and tips to share, would love to hear them. And there you have it. Until next time.